And President Trump is signaling a potential major reduction in tariffs on China.
Well. It seems like Trump's art of the deal isn't working. That is right, folks, because China saw its exports to other non-US countries surge, so much so that it completely offset the plunge in exports to the US. In other words, when they said they didn't need us, they were right.
So now McDonald Trump says he warned us about a transition period with his tariffs. That's funny because during the campaign, as I recall, this dude was out here selling tariffs like they were a cure-all miracle drug. He literally said, no one will be hurt. We're only hurting other countries. That's a direct quote from his 2024 rally. He bragged that we'll bring in billions in lower prices. But spoiler alert, prices went up. Jobs are still overseas. And who's hurting? Regular Americans, especially working families who can't afford to pay more for basic goods.
Talking to people who are Trump supporters on my page who are arguing with me has just reinforced that they are absolutely brainwashed into the Trump cult. They do not make rational arguments. Their arguments are based on conjecture, and they're not based in reality. They're not based off of the experiences of lived human beings. They are 100% based off of just twisted stories that Fox News and the conservative media and the Trump bandwagon is feeding them. They're not listening to the victims of his violence. They're not listening to the families of the people who are being deported. They're only listening to media coming right from Donald Trump and his cronies. And the fact that they think it's acceptable to send people to a concentration camp without due process. He has convinced people that it is okay to send people to prison without a trial. So by that standard, Donald Trump's ex-wife's death was extremely suspicious. She was set to testify against him in court, and she magically, suddenly falls down the stairs to her death in her house, right beforehand. That's a motive to me. So if we don't need due process, shouldn't we just send him to prison? That's his logic.
Now that the economic blowback is slapping people in the face, he's pretending he called it all along, like he's Nostradamus or something. No, you didn't warn us, you lied. You sugarcoated it, fed it to your base as a fantasy economic plan, and now you're trying to gaslight the country like we didn't hear you promise sunshine and rainbows. You sold the dream and delivered a dumpster fire. But hey, if you're still buying what he's selling, hey, I got a $34 mug and some Trump NFTs to show you. So drop your favorite Trump lie in the comments, and I'll start. Mexico's going to pay for it.
Would you throw away years of friendship because you found out your friend was a Trump supporter? So one of my friends, who's indigenous, found out that one of her friends is a Trump supporter. They've been friends about 6 or 7 years, and it just never came up in conversation. I think it could be because they might have just assumed the other one had the same belief system, and it just didn't come up. Well, it came up today. So my friend said something about being upset about how Trump's administration wants to basically rewrite history and get rid of things in the African-American community, in the indigenous Native community, the Mexican-American community, just all of it. And then the other person went in. So my friend feels completely betrayed. She's like, how could you possibly? So she's confused. She's like, how could I have a friend who feels this way about people who look like me? So that is what she's going through. So what would you do?
Hi there. Quick question for any Trump supporters or Trump voters. If that's not you, go ahead and keep scrolling or send this to someone who is. Okay, great. Do you guys enjoy being lied to and being gaslit? If you don't know what I'm talking about, do you remember on the campaign trail when one of Donald Trump's biggest campaign promises was to cut energy costs in half and reduce greatly the cost of gasoline?
On the campaign trail, President-elect Trump promised to cut energy prices by at least half within a year of taking office.
To achieve this rapid reduction in energy costs, I will declare a national emergency to allow us to dramatically increase energy production.
Yeah, he made these promises and then failed to explain to anybody that the United States doesn't own any refineries. They're all private businesses. The government can't dictate to them what to do with their oil. And then he sat down for an interview with Meet the Press the other day and said this.
You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
That seems strange, considering that U.S. oil production fell to an 11-month low. Yeah, our two largest oil-producing states, Texas and New Mexico, way down. Texas fell by 105,000 barrels per day, and New Mexico, the second largest oil producer, they fell by 53,000 barrels per day. Then he went on to say this about gas prices.
You don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible.
Numbers that nobody thought possible? Well, let's see what they were the Monday before Election Day.
After peaking at $5 per gallon in June of 2022, gas prices have dropped and stabilized as U.S. oil production is back to record highs. The Monday before Election Day, a gallon averaged $3.06.
And let's see what they are now. This is for 5/4/25. Current average, ooh, they're up. So I ask again humbly to the Trump supporters, do you enjoy being lied to? The President of the United States, Donald Trump, thinks you're stupid. It's okay to criticize the politicians you vote for. That's kind of the whole point.
MAGA is now saying in Trump we trust. That is literally insane. How do you not realize you are in a cult if you're saying things like that? I was watching something on TV where people from his cabinet were being interviewed about the thoughts on him doing these tariffs, and they were pretty much saying like, oh, we don't see the bigger picture yet, but Trump does, and Trump we trust. I'm just thinking, what the are you kidding me? This is the stage that MAGA is at, where they're chanting this now. It's crazy. It's insane. For any Christian to repeat such a thing is just insane. It just goes to show that you were never really about the Bible if you can say something like that, let alone believe in something like that to the point where you would say it out loud. That's disgusting.
Now they're arresting members of Congress. If you remember, yesterday we had the mayor of Newark, New Jersey arrested at an ICE facility for attempting to tour the facility. Mind you, they let him in to do a press conference, and then they arrested him while he was in there for being in there without permission. And now they're charging him with trespassing. I'm talking the federal government arrested the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, who was running for governor of all of New Jersey. Now, one day later, they're specifically talking about arresting the Congress members who were there to tour the facility. Now, by law, Congress has a right to tour ICE detention facilities with no notice. They are allowed to just show up, hello, I'm here, open the door now, and they have to let them in. But what the federal government is claiming is that these Congress members body slammed a female ICE agent. And so therefore they're talking about arresting them now as well. Guys, if you thought you were safe, you're not. My wife literally asked me last night, is this the moment? Is this the moment to leave the country? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. If you are not in a position to leave, keep your head down. Keep your head down as far down as it can go, okay? And if you are in a position to leave and you are comfortable with doing so, you should leave. The federal government is rounding up mayors, it's rounding up Congress people, and it's also threatening to round up reporters like Aaron Parnes because he's reporting against what ICE is doing. There's no freedom of speech left.
Y'all see that lady crashing out on CNN? Talking about it means something to be an American? Do you see now why I say that this idea of leaving MAGA, I don't think that really exists? Because these people absolutely believe in what he stands for. And what he stands for is the reclaiming of power, the reclaiming of supremacy by white America. That's what the emotion is all about. That's why she feels so strongly about saying what she's saying. The conversation that they're having is about whether or not a judge who was appointed by Trump is allowed to deem him using the Alien and Enemies Act, a wartime power, in non-wartime, deem it lawful. The conversation they're having is whether or not he is exceeding his authority as the president by doing what he's doing and deporting, now we know, many American citizens. But once again, like I've said, the rule of law, they don't care about that. Equality and human rights, they don't care about that. The words in the Constitution that says every person in this country has a right to due process, they don't care about that. What they care about is supremacy. What they care about is maintaining a hierarchy. What they care about is the president wielding unchecked power in the name of defending white America. Because that's all they've wanted. That's all they've really wanted, probably since Barack Obama was elected. A champion to stand up and fight for white America. That lady was ready to flip that table off of the idea that the president could not act the way that he's been acting. And for what? Because the facts are true. Everyone is entitled to due process. And he does not have the right to be conducting business the way he's been conducting business when it comes to these deportations. That's not the world she wants to live in. That's not the world MAGA wants to live in anymore. They want to live in a world where the law is the law, the Constitution is the Constitution, but it is only applied to people who don't look like them. Once these laws do start applying to them, that ain't gonna work. We're gonna burn it all down.
Here are some phrases that I will never take seriously from a Republican again. I'm a Christian. So what part of Jesus' teachings do you think Trump actually follows? Also, idolatry is a sin. We support economic growth. No, you support redistributing the wealth from the bottom and middle to the very top. We love the United States of America. No, you don't. You love one man, and that's Donald Trump. Go ahead and read up on the 5th and 14th Amendments again, because due process is for everybody in the United States. We care about women. I think you forgot to add when you can control them, their lives, and their bodies. When you can't do that, then you just cry about the male loneliness epidemic. We support education. I don't think I even have to explain that.
You know, when I'm having a bad day, it sometimes helps to find a story about dumb Trump voters who are now finding out just how stupid it was to have voted for that criminal. And I came across a story from NPR just now. Here's the headline. A Maryland town wanted Trump to cut waste. Now it's a target. And when I saw this headline, I thought, oh, this has got to be a town in Western Maryland. And it is. It is a town called Emmitsburg, which looks to be, I looked at the map, it is a stone's throw from Pennsylvania. And if you aren't familiar with Pennsylvania, I lived there for a while. If you get outside of the cities, which is most of the land area of Pennsylvania is outside of the cities, it's a very rural state, big state, you might as well be in Alabama. I mean, it is hardcore MAGA. Anyway, so it's no surprise that this town is close to Pennsylvania. Let me read some of this article for you. Frank Davis saw a lot of waste during his decades in the federal government. In November, he voted for Donald Trump to get rid of it. So far, Davis likes a lot of what he has seen. Quote, I'm probably going to get shot for this, but he is doing what he said he was going to do, says Davis, who serves as mayor of his town of about 3,000 people in Western Maryland, just south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So Mr. Davis here, Frank, is mayor of Emmitsburg. In March, the Trump administration suddenly canceled in-person classes at the National Fire Academy here, which trains the United States firefighters. Not only is the academy a big part of Emmitsburg's identity, but it also helps drive the local economy. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good, especially if you're mayor. Quote, it will change my outlook to say that they're not being fair, says Davis. Actually, did I skip something here? I did. Let me go back. Davis says the administration is reviewing the academy's operations, and he is hopeful it will restore classes. If not, he says, he'll see the administration somewhat differently. Quote, it will change my outlook to say that they're not being fair, says Davis, who also serves as emergency medical services captain at the local firehouse known as the Vigilant Hose Company. Quote, they're just going in to cut and not caring what they cut. Well, you know, Frank, where he says here, it will change my outlook to say they're not being fair. How is it that they're not being fair? Oh, yeah, I know. Because now they're cutting something that you benefit from. That's why it's not fair. If Trump was cutting things that only affected and hurt other people, you'd be all for it, right, Frank? Mayor Frank? You'd be all for that as long as it's not you who is getting screwed. Typical selfish MAGA. Emmitsburg voted overwhelmingly for President Trump in November. NPR interviewed about 24 people here. Almost all of them voted for Trump, and many said his plans to cut federal spending were a key attraction. Now they say they are puzzled as to why the administration would cancel national training for firefighters. Why would they do that? We voted for him to cut, but why is he cutting this?
I just had a bit of a random thought, and I'm no quantum physicist, so I'm not really qualified to talk on this, but my basic understanding of quantum mechanics is that the behavior of things change when observed. So it's got me thinking, and this might explain a lot, that perhaps Trump is operating at the quantum level, and Trumpers are observing at the quantum level. And that's why they see him in such a favorable light. They've gone to another plane, and in many ways superior beings. Whereas for the rest of us who haven't gone to that next level of being, we can only observe things at a very basic level.
Well, guys, it's no doubt that anytime a party wins, definitely they are gonna implement some rules that are gonna offset the other opposing party. And in United States, it's actually really bad because it's like 50-50, like the voters have divided themselves into 50-50. Maybe say Trump's party won by, let's say, 52%, and the other party garnered like 48%. You know, it's like almost half-half. And the biggest task of a president in a country like that is always to unite people, implement policies that actually favor both sides, and actually try to unite all people to be one. Each and every policies that are being made, the executive order signed, should always be in the interest of the citizens. Like, it should not favor, like, say, billionaires or people in the upper class and diminish or make people in the lower level suffer. And it's true that, yeah, some MAGA people are actually brainwashed, bro. Like, they believe everything. Like, for instance, this tariff thing, man, there is no way it's gonna do the American economy any good. Like, it's just a lose-lose situation, and I don't think it's gonna work. And that's why they are trying to sit down with several of these states that have implemented this, or they have imposed these tariffs on, and let's see just how it's gonna work. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this whole thing. Do you think MAGA supporters are brainwashed? Let me know in the comment section. Share your thoughts.